Ready in the back? We're good. Had some really good news this weekend. British Brooks came to us and said that he wants to come back for another year. So that's good. Good for him. He's an amazing young man. He has overcome so much through getting in school and being such a tremendous student and walking on and starting and then becoming a captain, then getting a scholarship, then getting hurt, and now he wants to come back and finish. And he said he loves this team and he wants to be a part of it. We asked him if he wanted to come and talk to you all this morning, and he said, that's not my deal. He said, I just want to play. So good for him, good for Carolina football, and he's just a special young man. Really good win for us for so many different reasons this weekend. 4 in a row over a brand name program like Miami. Winning 3 consecutive games on the road, which is really, really special. First time since 2016 for a program that didn't win a game on the road last year. 5-1 is the 4th time that we've started 5-1 since 1997. So this team is accomplishing a lot of really good things right now that really kind of unexpected when we started the season. Players of the game and contributors to the game defensively once again this week, DeAndre Boykins. He just continues to play at a high level. He loves football. He practices and plays with a passion, and it's fun to watch him. He and those 2 linebackers just they never slow down. They're all over the field, and that's the way it is every day. Des Evans, as a contributor, had his best game by far. He had pressures, he had tackle for loss, so we're really, really proud of him. With Ray Bahasic down, Kevin Hester played great. He had one of his best games, and also Miles Murphy's been limited as well. Ced Gray and Power Eccles we could talk about every week. I mean, they just, Ced Gray with the forced fumble at the end of the game was a difference maker, but he's all over the field, and he played 80-something plays. So he's a special player, and Power continues to play well. Offensively, the player of the game was Caleb Hood. He made some outstanding runs for us, caught the ball well out of the backfield, and just played overall really well. William Barnes, before he went out at halftime, and Spencer Rolland had very good games as contributors. And we made a huge emphasis for blocking on the perimeter this week, and Antoine Green, J.J. Jones, and John Copenhaver did an outstanding job in that area. Special teams, player of the game was Jake Harkleroad. He is a guy that the players just love with his passion and the way he plays and the way he covers kicks. He was even in on the goal line stand, so he's playing quite a bit now and helping us. Obi had 3 tackles, so he was a top contributor and seems to always be that on special teams. Jalen Brooks, another walk-on, continues to impress as a contributor. John Copenhaver's name seems to be coming up all over the place. He did a really good job covering kickoffs. And Omarion Hampton had the 36-yard kickoff return that if it had been blocked a little bit better, might have been some more yards there. So those are the guys that contributed the most throughout the game. Started off well offensively, didn't play as consistent in the second half as we have been, but we did have a 99-yard drive and a 95-yard drive, which is hard to do. Their punter is so good, and he just killed the ball inside the 5 and put us in a tough spot, and it's hard to overcome that. So we've got to do a better job with field position, but our offense did an amazing job. And then the second to the last drive for the late field goal was an 18-play, 81-yard drive that took 8 minutes and 21 seconds. We've talked about it some. Could you slow down any more than that? And you've got to score. So when you're a tempo team, you're usually different levels of tempo, and we slowed it down some, but we still snapped the ball with 12 and 15 seconds left on the clock. but you don't want to slow down so much that you're not productive. So it's something we've got to continue to talk about, because there's a big gap between 4-minute offense, where you are absolutely trying to kill the clock, and tempo when you've got 8-10 minutes left to go in the game and you've got to score. So that's something we'll continue to discuss. We ran the ball better, but again, it's not as consistent as I want, especially in the 4-minute offense. At the end of the game, we make a first down, the game's over. We come up with a 3rd and 3 and don't even have a chance on the play. We were 7 of 14 on 3rd downs, which was really, really good. We were 2 of 3 on 4th downs. The one was a ball thrown in the end zone that was not good, but we continued at a high level. We were not good with red zone touchdowns. We were 2 of 5, and I think we were like 9 of 11 or something. So they were really good in red zone defense, but we did not do a good job of scoring touchdowns in the red zone, or we would have scored a lot more points like we normally have. And then we got to protect the ball better. You look at the value right now of possessions, the way people are scoring points across the country. We can't have turnovers, and especially on the road. And that's we had them at Georgia State, and we had them Saturday, and you can't do that and still have a great chance to win. With that being said, the defense did some really good things. We said we got to get great at something. When they were running the ball and throwing the ball and we weren't stopping anything, stop something. So they did a tremendous job the last 2 weeks stopping the run. 99 yards against Virginia Tech, and then 42 yards rushing against Miami. We thought Miami would come out with a game plan like Notre Dame and try to run it down our throat and keep the ball. And I thought they tried to do that, and our defense really stood up, and give them a lot of credit for that. That's the fewest yards rushing that we've given up since the 24 against Virginia last year. Gave up entirely too many passing yards, but if you're going to give up one or the other, statistics say that you're better off stopping the run and then trying to stop the pass. I think you'll hear from Coach Chizik today about this, but we're so close in pass coverage on a lot of those throws. And if we can just cover a little bit longer, we're right on the quarterback with pressure. But you got to cover longer so the quarterback can't get the ball out of his hands so fast. And their quarterback did a tremendous job. That's the best he's played all year. But they did force 2 turnovers. There were 3 4th down stops. So that's really 5 change of possessions during the game, which was huge. The goal line stand was a thing of beauty. To have the ball at the 2-yard line and not be able to get it in was real progress. We showed some progress in that area against Notre Dame, and this was a great goal line stand, not a good goal line stand. It was huge. And then when we came out and threw the interception to start the second half, we didn't get started right offensively. We have a sack and throw an interception. The defense came right out and had a 4th down stop at near midfield, which again was a huge part of this ball game. And then when you go back and look at the end of the game, we made them use their 2 timeouts. And then on the last drive, one of the biggest plays in the game, I think I mentioned this after the game, was Ced Gray tackling their guy in bounds with the clock running, and then the quarterback had to speed up and go. And then I didn't notice it during the game, but watching the copies, the video copies, Kamen Rucker tipped the ball on the last play of the game, and that's why it went over their receiver's hands. So, I mean, just a game of inches. Ced Gray keeping the guy in bounds with the clock running and disrupting their time of trying to get a play in and get lined up. And then Kamen Rucker absolutely just tipping the ball enough that it goes over the receiver's head, because they got one of the best kickers in the country. They complete that pass, they got a chance at a long field goal with 6-7 seconds left if they can get it off. So, but that was a huge play by Kamen Rucker on the Boykins interception. And we've only allowed 7 second half points the last 2 games. So that's a big change for our defense. And it's interesting, we talk a lot more about giving up 40 than not giving up any. but those guys deserve a lot of credit, coaches and players, for what they've done. Defensively, we held them to, they converted on 5 of 14 third downs, which is better, and they were only 3 of 6 on 4th down, and that was a huge part of this game. Again, that's like 3 turnovers. Going for 4th down's cool, but you got to make it, or it is a turnover, and that's just something that we've got to continue to look at as we look at being aggressive offensively as well. Special teams, the kickoff coverage was really good. We're in a different place without Jonathan Kim. He kicked all the balls out, and now we're not, so we're having to cover every time. It's just different, and people are trying to return them against us. They're not fair catching, and Miami was one of the best in the country at kickoff return. So our guys did an outstanding job of covering and making sure that they didn't, I think they averaged maybe 26 instead of the 25-yard line, but they had one at the 21, I think. We've got to punt the ball better because we're losing field position. We're not consistently punting and covering like we should. And the 2 pressure field goals by Noah Burnett were really key in our chance to win. This has been an exciting week. Duke Week always is. Mike Elko knows this game. He coached at Wake Forest for Dave Clawson for a long time. He did an outstanding job at Notre Dame and at Texas A&M. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country as an assistant. And they're doing a great job. They're running the ball. They're being physical. They're stopping the run. They're coaching them up. They're playing hard. They're playing with a lot of confidence. And people realize that because I was told this morning there's only 1,000 tickets left for the game. So it's going to be a sellout this weekend and should be a lot of fun. Questions?
Mac, you faced Mike Elko's defense at A&M in the Orange Bowl in Miami. Do you see any similarities between how that A&M team played and how this Duke team is playing this season?
Yeah, Mike knows what he's doing. He's very confident in what he's doing. He's not going to change. It'll be the same stuff. When it works, you don't change it. I think the biggest thing he's doing is he's got them playing with confidence. They're playing hard. They're running the ball, and they're making yards on 1st down, which we're not consistently, and that gives them a great chance to have 3rd and shorts, and they're staying on the field. And I've been really impressed with their special teams. They're doing a great job with special teams.
When you say you guys are getting closer in pass coverage, how much of that is related to you getting a little bit more of a conventional pass rush going?
I think the pass rush has been better than the coverage. Gene can tell you that, but if they're wide open, we're all telling the quarterbacks, get the ball out of the hands. And we had too many sacks this week, but we held the ball some because Miami did a good job on defense of disguising and confusing us some. But we think that our rush has been better than our coverage and that we're close on coverage. So get a little bit wider, hang in there a little bit longer, tip a ball. So Gene will talk to you about that today, but that's what our defensive coaches feel more than anything else, that we need to cover better so we give our defensive front just a little bit longer to affect the quarterback.
Somewhat staying on that, Cedric said the other night agreed with the premise that with the talent you guys have on defense, it appears that some guys are having flare-up plays, showing that talent at times. He said that's sort of a sign of things coming together because those plays weren't being made earlier. Tony Grimes is a perfect example of that. Are you seeing that? Is that part of the process of everybody sort of meeting at a common point?
Yes, we have not been consistent on offense on defense since we've been here. We've been better on offense than we've been on defense. We've had better players on offense. We've had 2 great quarterbacks now. With the 2 running backs are starters in the NFL. The receivers played in the NFL. So we've been very talented on offense. Defensively, we've been catching up. And we've got a lot of young guys that are playing, and they are getting better, and they are getting more confident. But we've got to get so we consistently play great defense to have the program we want. We can't outscore people all the time. And hopefully after the last 2 weeks, we're headed in that direction. We played a lot of defensive linemen. There's been a lot of discussion about that since we've been back, and a lot of those guys played. It was really humid when the game started, we were concerned about it, and we didn't know, that it's like the Texas field, the sun goes down, but it goes down on the Miami sideline, not the Carolina sideline, so you're over there in the heat. But the guys handled it well, and I'm not sure Gene could tell you, but we played probably 6, 7, 8 defensive linemen. So we played a lot of those guys.
We played 12, including the Jacks.
Was it 12? Yeah.
Including the Jacks.
Yeah.
With that being said, like without Ray Bahasic too, I mean, what do you see people step up? Shaw, Hester, in place of Bahasic, who's been big for you all the last 3 years.
Ross, it's a good question. We all need a purpose. And we say that guy's not playing very well. Well, if he's not playing, it's hard to practice with passion, and it's hard to be excited if you don't think you're going to play. When you put Keyshawn Silver in for 10 plays, he knows he's going to play. He practices better. And the same thing with Kendrick Binkley-Jones. You just look at those guys. Jacoby Cowan, he gets his sack last week. They come into the meeting room with a smile. They come in excited and they're proud. And it's one of the more difficult things in football with all the numbers. And if you can play guys and trust them enough and still win, it just helps your team so much. It helps with the transfer portal. It helps with the confidence. It helps with depth. Because Ray's arguably our best defensive lineman. He's made more plays, and here we are without him going to Miami. And then I think Miles Murphy played 27 plays, so he didn't play very much. So you take 2 of our best players out against a really good team and stop the run, that means the depth's finally kicking in and we're making some progress.
Are you seeing a shift in the mood and morale of the team? It seemed like after Notre Dame, it was kind of, from our perspective, a little dark and almost depressing, but now 2 wins with everything in front of you, 2 down Coastal. Do you see a shift in the mood of the players?
Yeah, you all live in a dark world. So if it's a game where there could possibly be some negatives, oh my gosh, that's all you get. You don't get the upbeat and positives. But weirdly enough, I do think that these guys gained great confidence after Notre Dame, seeing we just got whipped and saying, okay, here's the deal. They've been telling us we're too soft, and they've been telling us we got to do this, but man, it's real, so let's go to work. And they took that game and turned it into a positive about being more physical and stopping the run. And that's where I feel like Gene is such a great teacher, showing the guys in a positive way that we're not accountable enough because we didn't stop the run. You can't win a game if you don't do this better. It's made them better. And they are very confident right now, but not complacent. They're excited. I said back in the spring, last year's team was hard. It was just, you never knew who was going to show up. And this year's team, so far, they've practiced well. Every day we've practiced. They've been excited. I worried a little bit in pregame at Miami. I thought it was kind of flat. They were kind of sitting around, but we had told them because of the possibility for the humidity, each one of you get yourself ready to go, but don't go out there and wear yourself out. If it's 88 degrees with humidity, don't sprint like you would if it's 50. So be smart. So I actually think they did that, and I was worried about it some, but they played hard and they were ready to play. And so I just think this is a team that unlike last year's, is a team that likes to play. They like each other, and they are feeling much more confident about themselves.
Matt, kind of piggybacking off of that, Notre Dame specifically, how much, the goal line stand against Miami, how much do you think the would have been goal line stance against Notre Dame would not have penalty? How much do you think that kind of factored in the confidence and everything going into that situation?
CL, I think it had a huge effect on it. Just the fact that we were down to the 4th and 3, and we said we thought there was a flinch that could have stopped that, and the kids saw that as far as a false start. And then the call on Said, where I got emotional because that was such a huge stop. And then stopping the goal line stand on the other end with Will Hardy batting the ball loose. All of those things, to me, contribute toward guys thinking they can make a stop and feeling better about the goal line defense. And that just makes a huge difference.
You have 2 quarterbacks in this game that are explosive, that, as you said last week, are a nightmare to handle as a defense because they can both run the ball really well
it seems now that everybody's got a good quarterback. And that wasn't the case. And I think it's a product of 7-on-7s. It's a product of these guys traveling when they're in high school and playing all across the country. They're being better taught. We have more stuff available to teach them. There's more videos. There's better coaches. There's a lot of just quarterback guys traveling around and helping guys, like kicking camps. Now we got quarterback camps. So everybody's got a good quarterback. And that's why I think we're seeing closer games. Before, if you didn't have a good quarterback, you're probably going to get beat. And especially in modern day football, people are scoring so many points that if you can't score at a high level, you're probably not going to win unless you're just one of those 6 or 8 that's so good on defense it doesn't matter. And that's what makes it fun. We just saw 2 of the best young quarterbacks in the country play in the game at Miami. I mean, they're 2 of the best. Rookie of the year last year, and a guy who will be in the running for it this year. And Duke's got a guy that's playing at such a high level. I think that's the other reason, other than they're so competitive right now and so confident. They got a quarterback that can run it and throw it. He's really, really good. So, and I just was up there studying the Georgia Tech Duke video, and Georgia Tech's got a great quarterback in Sims. We saw that last year. That makes a difference. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance to win. And now everybody's getting them. And the transfer portal has added to that, because a guy's probably not going to sit long as a second teamer when he can go start at a really good program.
And just to follow up, because Riley Leonard has such an ability to lead that offense, what challenges does that present when they are able to get off to such quick starts? I mean, they've been doing it all season long, jumping out to those 3 sort of leads early in games.
Yeah, he's big, he's fast, he's confident. He's got a tremendous arm, but he can run. And when you can do that, Drake's made some great plays with his feet. There's nobody responsible for the quarterback unless you just have someone shadow him. And if you do, you have to change your complete defense, because it takes a guy out of there. You're playing with 10 now. And that's why it's so tough to stop a quarterback that can run. They also are they're doing a better job on first down than we are. So they're coming up second and normal and third and short, and they're staying on the field. And that's a product of a really good head coach that believes in defense and running the ball and stopping the run and staying on the field. And you can tell that's their plan, and it's working for them.
I know we asked you a lot of questions about the defense Saturday night, and we're going into again today, but I mean, you always say you got to be able to run the ball to win games in college football. You got to be able to stop the run. Like, just from a pride standpoint for you as a coach, like, how proud are you to have seen what you've been able to improve in stopping the run? You know, beyond the X's and O's, just the feeling you've gotten, you know, watching the last 2 weeks and the stops you guys have had on the ground.
Yeah, Adam, I'm really proud. I mean, I love Gene Chizik. I believe in him. We said it when we gave up 40 points to App State. Everybody's ready to have him thrown out. And what's going on, man? And he's been in TV too long. And I saw practice. And I know that we were lining up right. I know that we were trying hard. And then you sit there and you look at it. And I go to him and say, okay, help me with this now. I'm like a fan here. I watched 40 points being given up. And he sat there and said, look at this. We got to get this fixed. There's 2 guys. Look at this. There's 1 guy out of position here. And of course, my question to him would be like fans, why is he out of position? We got to get him in the right position, and that's our job. That's coaching, and he does that. So he's got the perfect temperament for our defense right now, because he's confident. He's not a screamer and a yeller, but he's a motivator, and he's pushing them hard. But as tough as some of those games were, he'll pick them up, and that's what he does. And he'll go in and show, here's what we didn't do right. Let's talk about what we did right. And if we can just extend this a little bit, then man, we're close. And I think that's what he'll tell you about the pass defense today. That's what I heard yesterday. Instead of coming in and saying, like Virginia last year, man, they threw for 500 yards, he's going to say, you know what? We are so close on making those plays. get a little wider, get inside position. It's the inches of the game that he constantly talks about, and I feel like that's where these kids are believing and getting better. Just like we do 1 minute offense every day and 1 minute defense every day, and I mean the said Gray holding the guy in bounds was not an accident. That's coaching, because he's been told every day. In fact, it came up Thursday that there was a guy that said Gray held in bounds, and it was the difference in our 1 minute game that we have, and we end every 1 minute every day with a winning field goal to put pressure on Noah with it. So I think that's where Gene is such a great teacher. These kids have just bought in, and they're believing. It's hard to stop somebody for 42 yards rushing. I mean, that's hard to do anymore. And I remember the game last year with Virginia, and I was mad because we held them to 24 yards rushing, but they threw for 500 and something. So it was very much like Saturday night. And you know what? The key's to win. And you got to do something great. We've been throwing great. We haven't been running great. So I'd like to improve our running and continue to throw great. And I'd rather us line up and be really physical and knock everybody around and just play action, but that doesn't seem to be who we are right now. So we got to figure out how to win. Same thing with the defense. When you're Appalachian, we didn't do anything right. We played okay for 2 quarters. But they ran for 288 and they threw for 1,000, and there's 40 points in a quarter and too many penalties, and it was just all over the place. So I really feel like that when you get you're doing something good, and we have stopped the run really well the last 2 weeks, that gives you a chance to get better at the rest of it.
She just told us about Cedric Gray on Saturday night, about the Thursday thing. Ross wrote a whole story about it, keeping him in bounds.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
So he didn't keep the guy in bounds in Thursday.
Oh, yeah, no, he did. That's what I mean. We made a huge emphasis on it with everybody. And it's the same thing. It's why head coaches are just crazy, because if the guy doesn't get out of bounds, you're mad at him. If they don't keep the guy from getting out of bounds, you're mad at the defense. So head coaches are never happy. They're mad at somebody all the time. But we take best against best every day, the last period of practice, and we go 1 minute defense and 1 minute offense. And our 4 minute periods are our inside drill on Tuesday, because you've got to make 4 yards every time in an inside drill, and that's both sides, and we just call that the 4 minute drill, because that's the drill at the end of the game where you're trying to kill the clock.
And he did it right on Thursday and did it right on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's really a smart player. And he also, being a receiver in high school, he's got really good hands. So he intercepts what? Did he have 2 against Miami last year?
He had the game clinching.
He had the game clincher. I was thinking he had another one in the late third quarter, but and he had the interception at App. So he's yeah. He had the interception against Virginia Tech. So he and Cam Kelly probably have the best hands on our defense, because Cam, when he gets around one, usually gets it too.
On that 18-play drive that it seemed like you were trying to drain the clock, we did some research. I'm trying to phrase this right.
Okay.
If you didn't snap the ball, you snapped the ball early, like 15 seconds left, 20 seconds left.
Yes.
You didn't snap it with 5 seconds left, which I would think maybe you would want to do if you're trying to drain the clock. I don't know if that's something that y'all are trying to do to kind of keep the defense off balance or what. I'm definitely asking long about that as well.
On the positive side of that, which you would miss, is that we took off 8 minutes and 21 seconds, probably the longest drive we've had since we've been here.
My point is that I think if you...
My point is, it was one great drive to win the game. You all live in a world of negatives. I got that. I kept telling Phil during the drive, slow down if you can. Don't disrupt the drive. We've got to score, and I wanted to score a touchdown. If we score a touchdown, the game's probably over. Field goal at least gave them a chance for an onside kick, which is another drama story. When that thing got, Miami player knocked me down nearly. I was so far out of bounds, and we had to review it, but I'm not going to go there. But 18 plays, 81 yards, And it's really tricky. And I'm with you. I wish we'd snapped the ball with 3 seconds left every time. And we snapped it with 12 and 14 and 15. The thing I'm going to suggest to Phil is that he just get the play in later. Because it's harder to ask those kids. We've either got to huddle up, which we don't do. We would do that some with 4 minutes if we wanted to. But it's hard to ask those kids just to stand there and stand there and stand there when that's not their norm. And you're trying to say, we've got to score a touchdown. We'd like to kill the clock, but scoring the touchdown was more important at that point than killing the clock. And again, I think there were 12 minutes, and we killed 8:21.
It was a great drive.
It was a great drive. One of the best we've had since we've been here. And the question is, and it's that new issues again, when you're going so fast, are they going to do as well if you say, okay, let's just stop. Let's let it get down to 3 seconds. Then do you have a 3 and out? Because that's not who you are. And that's the real question. So I think the answer is more that we probably get it to them later instead of ask them to stand there and wait. So we've got to do that. But it's, you take it. And I thought the same thing during the drive. I said, if we can kill 12 minutes and score, Phil, and he's looking at me like, really? I'm overloaded here, man. Don't beat me down here with trying to slow it down that much. But they did an amazing job. I wish we'd scored. And we did take the clock down to use a timeout at the end to try to kill another 40 seconds. But that's a new dilemma with all these modern day fast offenses, is trying really, really hard. I remember the game everybody talks about we lost at Texas when we were number 1 in the country out at Texas Tech. There was 1:24 left in the game, and we were first and goal from the 7. And we were going to run a play, and then we were going to let the clock run down and call timeout. And then we were going to let the clock run down and call timeout, but we had to score a touchdown. A field goal was not going to win the game, but we felt like we still could kill enough time in there or force them. I think they had 1 timeout left. We had a counter play, and he scored on the first play. So it left a 1:24, I think, and we kicked off to them. They scored with 3 seconds left. So all of those things, you start trying to say, how can you kill every second? Most people call timeout with 3 seconds left. I've said, why not call it with 1? Yeah, it's 2 more seconds that may come down to a last-second field goal. But it's real, and it's something we got to look at. You got a freshman quarterback, and you have an unbelievable drive, and you're telling him, slow down more. So it's not as easy as it sounds like it should be. Fair?
Yeah, we'll grill Phil about it.
Yeah, grill Phil. Phil heard it.
We'll get some answers.
You told me. You said after the game, you're like, I was telling Phil to go slow. You told us that.
And here is exactly what I think I said. Go slow, but don't let it disrupt the drive. We have to score. We have to score. Slow it down as much as you can. And, maybe they thought 12 seconds from 40 was going slower because we usually snap it so fast. But it's definitely something we've got to look at. Last year against Miami, if you remember, we had 2 atrocious 3 and outs in the fourth quarter. It was awful. It's as bad as I've ever been around. So we also didn't want to go back to that because it nearly lost us a game. Yes, CL.
After the game, Drake kind of sounded like he was beating himself up a little bit. He said clearly he thought he felt like he threw for only 98 yards and that kind of thing. And I was wondering, with more and more tape on him, defensive coordinators get to see more of his tendencies and all that stuff. How do you manage him, maybe understanding that it's not going to be as easy as he made it look early on, and that it's okay to kind of have some of these bumps in the road?
Drake is, he's like me. I'm way too hard on myself. And that's not a healthy thing sometimes. You know, some people say, well, that's why you're so driven. It also, when you beat yourself up so much, it's not a positive sometimes, and it can carry over to other things. So I have to be careful not to take that over to the team, because I'm like you guys. I look at every little thing and try to figure out what we could have done better. Love beating Miami. Great win for us. 5-1. What we didn't play as good in the second half offensively as we have been. So why? And defensively, why'd we give up 495 or whatever it was yards passing? So we go back and look at every little thing. We have to be careful with Drake because he's the same way. He beats himself up so much over everything. He makes an unbelievable throw for Josh Downs that none of us have ever seen before. It looks like Mahomes out there, and then he thinks that's normal. He doesn't give himself any credit for that. And then he forces a ball right before the half that he threw last week that led to 3 points. So he's too hard on himself. So we've got to keep picking him up. I did think it was great for our team that our team won and the offense didn't play its best the second half. I thought that was great for us because we've been so much on offense since we've been here. We haven't won many games just because of our defense. And the offense did some great things and scored 21 points in the first half, but coming out with a sack to start the second half, then an interception at the 50, and then the defense goes 4 and out and gets the ball right back to the offense. The defense is starting to feel their presence and their importance in winning games, and that's a real positive for this team.
To that, you're 3-0 on the road. If you throw out the stats, defensive stats on the street, if the defense stepped up and made plays at the end of those games to get you wins,
It's true.
Can that do something for the culture of that side of the ball? Are you starting to see some of that?
I am. I really felt like it happened at Georgia State after the awful fourth quarter at App State. Georgia State, second half was good, but that fourth quarter where we turned the ball over offensively twice, we had to step up on defense or we might have lost the game. And I thought that was a huge plus for them. And then Notre Dame, we had some good moments, but they whipped us. And it was obvious if we're going to be a national program, we cannot do that. We can't sit there and just get shoved around. And then Virginia Tech, they did much better, and then Saturday they did much better. And going into Saturday's game, one of the things I was really interested in was would Miami muscle us around like Notre Dame did? Would they just hammer us and with a great quarterback still be able to run the ball so much? It would be Miami-ish, and they would just throw play action and we wouldn't have a chance. And early in the game, I felt like the defense established the fact that we were going to be physical in the game, and they knew they were going to have to throw the ball.
Matt, if you look at the offensive production, obviously you mentioned already that there was a fair bit to work on, but at the same time, you were able to sustain multiple longer drives. Obviously, you mentioned the 8-minute one in the fourth quarter. You had a couple where you had explosive plays, but also multiple first downs based off of being on schedule. How do you feel like that's developed over the course of the season? Because I know at points you mentioned that's been kind of a weakness for the offense.
Yeah, we are really spoiled offensively. I mean, how many people can have a 99 to 95-yard drive and be mad at their offense for touchdowns? And then how many people at a critical point in the fourth quarter can have an 18-play drive for 81 yards and be fourth and goal at the 2 and be disappointed that you're not scoring touchdowns? So I do feel like that we're probably not being as fair to our offense, but the offense has such great potential. We want to continue to improve. We don't want to sit there and say, this is okay. But you start looking at every weekend, there's just surprises, scores that you said that can't happen. I mean, you can go through the App State beats A&M. A&M had a throw in the end zone to beat number 1 Alabama at the end of the game. App State gets beat by James Madison, who kills Middle Tennessee State, who beats Miami, and then App State loses to Texas State. I mean, this stuff's just crazy. So what you've got to do is be really, really happy when you get off that field at the end of the game anymore and you've won the game. And then you try to fix all your ills. So you just look at every little thing, but you've got to take every game individual. We've told our team this is the last game of the second phase of our season. And then we've got an open date where we can start looking at the last 5. But we had the first 3 and then the second 4, and this is the end of that part. So we got to get through this. This is it. This is the last game of that phase, and then get ready to reevaluate again, clean up what we've done for the first 7 games, and get ready to finish.
Mac, you mentioned Will Hardy earlier. You were obviously very high on him for the punch out against Notre Dame. Looked like he got some more snaps against Miami. What else has he been doing to earn a spot out there?
He's a coach's kid, really smart, athletic, plays more mature than his age. So we feel like he's got a chance to be really good. He's played that great tight end at Notre Dame, and then Mowry the other day is one of the top tight ends in the country, and he was trying to cover him on the seam and got beat, but he's getting some valuable experience, and he's on all special teams. But we feel like Will Hardy's going to be a really good player for us.
Would you say that maybe the identity of this team so far this season is kind of the resiliency? Because it hadn't been perfect, but just in spots you've been able to still find ways to win.
Yes, CL, you start looking at, you just go back and look at the opening game. It was pretty easy, but there were still some moments that we didn't like. And then you go to Appalachian, biggest game in school history, and you're in trouble. You're on the road. You're on the ropes, and they found a way to win. Took a tremendous amount of criticism and found a way to win. Nobody talked about us scoring 63. They talked about us giving up 61. So it's funny that you're, like I said, modern day, everybody going to talk about what didn't work right. It just seems to be the process we live in. That's okay. It is what it is. But kids have to handle it. They hear it. And they could have gotten mad at their coaches on defense. They could have pointed fingers because that was an awful fourth quarter. And then you go to Georgia State, the biggest game in their school history. And offensively, it's too easy. And then you have 3 turnovers, and defense has to step up after all that criticism. And nobody pointed fingers. We had the little talking on the sideline that everybody got all excited about. Really, that's helped us grow up because they're making each other be accountable. And I like that. I even had a family member say, "What's it about fighting on the sideline?" I said, "Nobody's fighting on the sideline. Somebody's trying to get somebody else to play better." And that's coaching. That's we get out of the way on Saturdays. They've got to have a player-led team, and we tell them that, then they got to do it. And then you go to Notre Dame, things weren't good before and after the half. They didn't quit. They were really resilient, and they kept fighting till they knocked that ball loose at the end of the game, and Drake gets a touchdown pass at the end of the game. So you don't like losing, but I've learned you've got to learn from losing. You got to teach from losing, and I thought the coaches did an outstanding job of taking Notre Dame and helping us move forward. And then there weren't many tough moments at Virginia Tech. Most of that we were in control. But then Saturday night, they could have caved. Really, really easy. And I never saw any panic. I never saw any problems on the sideline with oh my gosh, here we go again. We're going to lose a close game. And CL, to me, your program is elevated by winning close games. That's what you have to do. You'll have a blowout, or you can get blown out. But when you start, we won all the close games at Texas just about. I'm thinking it's like 19 out of 21 or that came down to 3 points or less. We haven't done that here. And this is the first time we're starting to win some close games. And Georgia State could be considered a close game. And I think Georgia State's got a good team. They beat Georgia Southern last week. They won 2 in a row. They had a horrible schedule opening up with South Carolina and us. But I think you'll see Georgia State better here at the end of the year, just watching them, because they got good players and they got a bunch of starters back. And but when you can win close games, and especially on the road, that's when your program's getting better, and you're maturing, and you're expecting to do that. And I thought our team expected to win Saturday. And that's a hard place to get to. Last year, we didn't. And I don't want to beat up last year's team, but last year we didn't.
You guys good?
Mac, Phil's here. It's a question for Phil too, but I wanted to ask you about Caleb Hood in the running game. And, I think he had 74 yards. I think he had 18 touches between the carries and the passes out of the backfield. I know Ricky Williams isn't walking through the door, and that era isn't walking through the door anymore, but is this, with him there, is what looks like your lead back now, is this, that distribution kind of where you would like it to be? The carries, the touches out of the backfield, 124 total yards, I think it was, just his game, and
Yeah.
is that where you want to see that, or is that headed the way you want to see that?
Yes, he's got to stay healthy. That's the question. Every week there's a pulled hamstring or a hurt shoulder, or there's just something that he has to come out of the game for. So he can't be your lead back until he can show the ability to stay on the field, because you just don't know play to play. Omarion made one of the best runs I've ever seen for the touchdown. We have 2 unblocked. And I mean, it's about the 4-yard line, and he is stopped, and he spins and fights and gets in there where they did the replay. It was an unbelievable run. He's done that time and time again, but we've also got to get him to keep his head up, and there's still, he was so close to breaking a long one on Saturday on that long drive. There are just a couple of times where you think, and he stumbles at the end. So we've got to get him to relax more and run behind his pads and not be fighting so much to go forward that he stumbles. And then we got to keep looking at DJ and George and see what they can do. But we feel like that we're still not happy with our running game. It's okay, and it needs to be better. So we'll keep looking at every little possibility of what that needs to be. Okay.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Matt.
See you on Wednesday.
Appreciate it.